Okay, so hold still, right? So why is it that when in a financial way, between a man and a woman, why does it get so uncomfortable when a woman starts making better money and then the balance gets really thrown out between the masculinity and the femininity?
Doesn't have to, but old beliefs die hard. And the reason old beliefs die hard is because you all keep them alive by focusing on them. Because it doesn't have to be like that. But it's really interesting how many people focus on what they don't want and wonder why it sticks around. So it doesn't have to affect you if you're not one of the ones who's focusing on it.
I understand that. What is it? Is there a law underneath the
law of attraction?
Yeah.
You get what you think about. Expectation is everything. So what your question really is, if you were to speak it in perfect vibrational accuracy, why do I expect this?
Well, I understand.
And the answer is because you keep practicing it. That's what expectation is. A belief. It's a thought you just keep thinking. You don't let it peter out.
That is my answer.
Yeah.
So there's no like underlying law between men and women so that a man doesn't feel his powers usurped, or a woman doesn't feel that she's carrying too much of the weight.
Because so many are looking at the piles of conditions and sorting them and pigeonholing them and categorizing them and archiving them and talking about them and debating about them, they keep all of that active. That's all that it is. It doesn't need to be. But this is what we've been talking about in all these hours that we've been together. Looking at what is doesn't allow change. And so the determination to study the condition and make it change is what holds it right where it is. That's why we're wanting you to be unconditional and reach for the feeling. In other words, so let's do that on this subject. So what feels better to you? Clearly, the conditions as you have described them and as you believe them to be are uncomfortable to you. You don't like it to be that way, and you are concluding that it is that way. In other words, there's a lot in the news about equal pay, and there's a lot in the news about all kinds of things, so there's a lot of activity around it. So here's this condition that you don't like, and you could sort it and sift it as humans have been doing for a very long time, and it wouldn't move at all. The thing that saves you is that you are fickle and you get bored of some subjects. And when you do, they sort of fall by the wayside. But a subject that has to do with economics, you keep active because you never get bored of that, really, because it feels so necessary to your experience. So things relative to some subjects stay active much longer than they need to or than they serve you. So here's the point that we really are wanting you to hear. When you stop trying to sort out the conditions of it, the facts of it, the reality of it, and you unconditionally reach for the emotion that feels better, the emotion that feels better, now you can accomplish your alignment, and then none of that has been plaguing you plagues you. So for example, which feels better? Which is the path of least resistance? Men making more money than women, or women making more money than men?
It seems like a stalemate to me.
It feels like a terrible question and an impossible answer.
Yeah.
Yuck. All right, let's keep trying. Which feels better? Equal pay for everyone, even though some people deserve more than others. Which feels better? Everybody working to the best of their ability, putting everything in one big pot and divvying it all out. Oh, there's the best idea ever, right? Oh, not a good idea? We could stay in this trying to sort it out all day and all day and all day and all day and all day, and you would just groan louder and louder and louder and louder and louder because the answers aren't there. So which feels better? appreciation or resentment?
No, definitely appreciation.
Oh, well, that was easy. Which feels better, acknowledging resources or looking for pockets of deprivation?
Resources.
Which feels better, jealousy or appreciation?
Appreciation.
Which feels better, proving righteousness or finding alignment?
Alignment.
In other words, in this emotional intention, in this unconditional intention, you can get right there, and you can get right there now. You can clean up your vibration right now. And this is the thing that's so importantly interesting about that. Your vortex is full of everything you want, and so when you do that, it all flows to you. So now we're really on another subject. It's really another subject that you also brought, which is, how can I be someone else's path of least resistance? Esther remembers being in school, deliberately missing questions on tests because she didn't want to look too smart to those who did not know the answers.
Yeah.
Don't want to upset anybody. Don't want to thrive in the presence of those who aren't thriving. It'll hurt their feelings, and it'll make them spit in my soup. But you can't control that. In other words, that backfires 100% of the time. Every time you are trying to serve someone else by trying to be their path of least resistance. And that really is what this question is mostly about. Be someone else's path of least resistance. So what you do is you reach for the emotion, and find it, you reach and find it, you reach and find it, and you reach and find it. And then not only does something, oh, this is really interesting, because then your prosperity and everything that you want zooms, which in the former way you were looking at it, exacerbates that problem.
It does.
But wait, it doesn't. But it seems to, if that's the environment in which you are trying to create, but you're not creating in that conditional environment anymore. You're creating in this unconditional environment. So at the same time that you thrive more financially, which you think is the problem, you also thrive more with clarity. You also thrive more with better timing. You also thrive better in all forms of receptivity. So now you are able to say the right thing at the right time. Your timing is better with others, you see. And most important, you are demonstrating through the clarity of your example how this all works. Because the other stuff isn't working. How's it working out? How long has it been going on?
A long time.
Not just with you, with so many. In other words, you rail against communism or against socialism, which really is the idea of let's just make a big pot and let's divide it out fairly. But the reason that that doesn't set well with you is because it isn't vibrationally accurate. And anything that is not vibrationally accurate cannot be sustained. And your desire to sustain it makes you put things in place that are so unpleasant for everyone, until after a while you just live in this law-based, red-taped, bound-resistant environment that you could free yourself from in the moment that you decide to become unconditional. And we promise you, those who are thriving are, in other words, they just are. It is your unconditional alignment, your willingness to find alignment first, no matter what, that puts you in the place of all of the things you want. Improved relationship, regardless of what is going on. In other words, if someone is feeling deficient, feeling not enough, you can't not make enough money to make them feel enough. You can't get sick enough to help sick people get well. You can't get poor enough to help poor people become prosperous. It doesn't work that way. You cannot hold yourself back from what they think they want. How often do you say, well, you know, I have felt so good for so long, and there are so many sick people out there. I think it's my turn to be sick and leave some of the wellness for them. Why don't you say that? You don't say that because you know that their sickness or wellness doesn't have anything to do with yours, does it? And their prosperity or not doesn't have anything to do with yours. Teach through the clarity of your example. Uplift through your thriving. And don't worry about them. 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 Think here. Don't worry about that. Think here. Don't worry about that. Think here. Don't worry about that.
I did that, and I doubled my income by doing that. It pushed me forward in exactly what you're saying, into alignment, and it worked.
We just want to say that if your thriving is upsetting to someone else, they've got some movement that they're looking for.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think some of the problem is that maybe I don't trust that they'll rise up and help meet me, so now there isn't an imbalance.
Oh. Well, we worked all the bugs out of this already, so let's not backtrack into a vibration that's no longer active.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You see, there's no competition in anything, because this energy that is the resource that you're all reaching for is equal opportunity to everyone. In other words, it's just being broadcast. You just got to tune into it. And the more you tune into it, the more you will demonstrate your alignment with it. And as you go to that well and drink from it, you are not running the well dry. In fact, you are perpetuating more. That's what the evolution of all things is about. That's what the expansion of the universe is all about. That's what the evolution of all species is about. That's what the laws of the universe affirm and demonstrate constantly and only.
I love that. It's a great answer. Thank
Really
you
good.
so much.
Yes, indeed. Go back, go back, go to the back.